There's never been a better time to have Sirius XM. With over 140 channels in your vehicle, your all-access trial includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels and enjoy favorite shows with Sirius XM Video on Demand. What you love is on now.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Ben Wu here for another CMA Connected presented by Sirius XM. Lunchtime learning session on the menu today. SounDigital amplifiers from Brazil, no less. I've had the opportunity to have the president himself, Mr. Diego, on a previous CMA Live, but on this one, we're going to get, of course, the Canadian distributor, BB Distribution. Mr. Justin Bond will be joining us.
Hey,
and
me again.
It's you again. We spent a lot of screen time together, sir.
Yeah.
But it's important screen time.
Stuff, I guess, right?
It's, well, you know, if you look at the BB line card, I'm going to say it's quite extensive at the very, you know, the least I could say. But I know this is a brand, Justin, that you always speak very passionately about. It's a special brand in your lineup. It's also a special brand in the industry. You know, we were talking about this earlier. For those who don't know, first of all, you've seen that video. I think it's a great segue to make the remarks I'm about to make. It's a company. It's unique. It's made in Brazil, which is not really typical in our industry of where, you know, equipment comes from. And there's reasons for that. And we're going to talk about that. And more importantly, it's an amplifier only line, which, you know, other than the small boutique brands, it's not really that you know, popular these days, I guess, to have a line of just amplifiers. So I think that makes it really special. I'd like to hear your thoughts on that to get the show going.
I mean, in car audio, there's so many brands that do so many things, full lineup brands, etc. So when you think of kind of the ability to survive being specialized in one simple product or one, you know, category of product, it definitely is, you know, maybe you'd say an uphill battle, but it's really cool to see a brand like SounDigital who does something, they do it very well, you know, and they've kind of carved out their own niche in this massive industry with so many other brands and so much competition. And it's cool that they've kind of just began to stand out on their own now, being a product that is, you know, not, you know, native to North America originally. It's not, you know, it's not the same type of marketing as an American company, you know, when you have JL and Kicker and all that kind of stuff. So it's nice to see, you know, not North America or not, you know, United States or produced product that's making waves kind of all around the world. And especially, you know, like you mentioned, in just kind of one single category, which is really cool because it really does speak to kind of, I guess, the versatility and the ideology and the engineering that goes behind all this stuff. to allow them to do what they can do and do it really well, right? I've talked about it before. HKI, the distributor of these guys out of the United States, and our direct partner with them. It really is like a family of brands with them, which is really cool because the partner and the support that has to be behind the brand is over half the battle. You can have the best product in the world, but if that back end is not there, it's not going to do you. So it's really nice to have a company like SounDigital or an HKI that are always there. So.
Well, I think on that note, it's a perfect segue to bring on our guest. He's no stranger to CMA, of course. You've seen him wear a couple different hats. You mentioned HKI. Of course, they also distribute Ground Zero, which BB Distribution, of course, has as well. His name is Jacob Brown, and he's going to be our SounDigital specialist today. What's going on, Jacob?
Oh, same stuff, different day.
Same stuff, different day. But today we're only going to be focusing on one topic, and that is SounDigital amplification. Jacob, I was hoping you'd be able to kind of expand a little bit on the video that we started with. I suppose that was the factory in Brazil?
Yes. Yeah. One of the cool things that, kind of sets us apart is the fact that we are the factory. We are the engineering team. We are everything. And it kind of goes back to what you were talking about. With the Brazilian brand and some of the other things that set a Brazilian brand apart from some of the others. So in our particular instance, we own the factory, several hundred employees between the engineering team and the factory team, along with the owner/lead engineer, plus our quality control teams and everything along those lines that we put in place to try and do our best to bring you cool stuff like what you see in front of Justin.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of cool stuff. I can't wait to dive in, but I really wanted our listeners and the dealers potentially listening in to understand the story of SounDigital. Like, how did a company or just people, these individuals who are obviously passionate about car audio, get into fabricating and manufacturing this stuff in Brazil? There must be a story behind that.
So one of the big things is exactly like you just said. It's a passion. It's a hobby. It was one guy, which we've all had this story within ourselves of being able to say, wow, something stood out in car audio, made me really want to drive to be part of that industry. In Brazil, it really got to a point where as a student, he kind of went, well, let's make an amplifier. Word got out. His buddies started to go, hey, wait, you kind of know what you're doing with this. Like, help me out. And it really was built on a passion of our CEO, SounDigital CEO and lead engineer to change the way things are done. And so he developed an amplifier in college and then went on to modify amplifiers for his buddies. And then word even got out farther, hey, can you build amplifiers, for us for the competition scene? So it really turned into a small, super tiny manufacturing kind of situation that just blew up. So really the reason for this is one person's love of car audio and amplification and doing something a little different has exploded into what you see now spread all across the world. So for us, it's super cool.
So Jacob mentioned something different. Justin, tell us right now, if those might not have heard of the brand or maybe viewing this for the first time, what makes SounDigital different? Why does it have this following, and why is it so popular in where,
Yeah. So, I mean, when you think of SounDigital and, when we mentioned it before, it's manufactured in Brazil. I mean, Brazil's a whole different ballgame to what we're used to. Ben, we shared some images with you of something called carreta, which is just these giant semi-trucks of speakers that have these outdoor parties and these bass tests. It's just crazy. But it's a whole different audio world. But the thing that's also different is the way that they're taxed in their government. I mean, they don't have a lot of cool things going for them in the sense that we do when it comes down to car audio. Like, for example, when I got to talk to the guys with SounDigital, they let me to say, Justin, like it's very hot here and we still use lead acid batteries, right? We don't have the best batteries. And the import tax on electronics can range anywhere from like 70 to 100% of the value of the electronic. So that doesn't really make it a feasible idea to bring in speakers and amplifiers and because it just prices it in this astronomical kind of level that doesn't really jive with the community. So I mean, when you look at someone like the the CEO of SounDigital, who kind of identified this as an issue and put a skill set and a passion together. That kind of just speaks to the immediate success of SounDigital, because now you have something that's manufactured in Brazil, like Jacob said, in their own factories, with their own parts, to their own specs, with their own quality control, right? They know every single part A to Z that's going in that amplifier. It's not, you know what I mean? If it's built for them. It's built literally 2 blocks away, because SounDigital's factories, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but the city's called Gravity, and it's in like the southernmost, essentially, tip of Brazil, which is effectively like it's like Montreal for Canada, right? It's their engineering hub and manufacturing hub. So, I mean, to be located there, resource-wise, is super smart. And it's just a really smart company, and they've identified a need and they did something completely different, and that's why they've had to build these amps that can get a huge power, really efficient, lower current draw. It all just kind of makes sense for their market, but because their market was at a hindrance compared to what we do with AGM and lithium batteries now, right? It's like, when you get this kind of stuff and you bring it into North America, into Canada, and where all these other options are available at more reasonable prices, it just kind of makes sense that this would just take off and soar.
Well, I think you don't have to look further than that little piece. Literally, that little piece sitting right in front of you. I mean, that right there is what you see most of the time when you're looking at builds online. I mean, on CMA, we feature a ton of builds with SounDigital, and it's always crazy to actually see how big that, because sometimes with perspective, you can't really tell, right? I mean, an amp looks like an amp in an image, right? But there you go. I'm going to just put you on full screen there.
Yeah.
That is absolutely tiny. And I think that's really what I was driving at. I mean, for the word on the street, these amps have such a tiny footprint, but yet if you look at the specs, and we're going to get there, but they provide, like SounDigital provides all the specs at all the voltage draws, exactly what kind of power that you're going to get. It's nothing short of impressive.
It's really cool because, I mean, even these amps kind of caught me off guard, because when I looked at this 404 the first time, I had to call Jacob. I said, listen, man, I'm confused. He's like, well, what do you mean? He's like, you've been doing this forever. How are you confused? I said, well,
there's a power in, there's a ground in, and the small little one next to it is a remote.
Yeah, pretty much. But I said, this is a 4-channel amp, but it only has 6 terminals.
Oh,
and he goes,
okay.
Yeah. And I was like, he's like, well, why do you need the other 2? I'm like, well, like, what do you mean? Why do you need the other 2? You need the other 2 for the other set of speakers. He's like, well, Justin, most Class D amps are internally bridged. He's like, if you measure the continuity between the positive and the negative and the 2 channels, they're going to be linked inside. I was like, really? He's like, yeah. So, I mean, the fact that they just realized, well, hey, we can make this amp smaller by cutting off 2 terminals that do the exact same thing instead of actually just, right? It's just something that no one does. But I had dealers call in about me. And they're like, hey, man, I don't get this. Well, one's going to be out of phase. I was like, just hook it up. I guarantee it won't be out of phase. And it's it's little things like that make these super cool. Aside from just the size, the fact that they deliver on the power, the fact that they sound great, you know what I mean? It's a really, really fun lineup. It's an easy lineup for me as a distributor to carry, because it's just amplifiers. And once again, when I'm holding something from 400 RMS up to,
oh my God,
12,000 RMS, up to 20,000 RMS, and up to a 35,000 RMS surfboard for burping. I mean, it's really crazy, and it's really fun.
Before we segue into the lineup, Jacob set it up. I mean, Justin already made mention to it. It's a pretty simple lineup, but there was a recent announcement that kind of expanded the lineup, wasn't there?
Are you referring to the powersports stuff?
I am.
Yes. We responded to a kind of request that was bring back the Marine line. And, we for several years had a phenomenal Marine line. Everybody loved it. It was super reliable, super, super wicked. And it went in line with our Evo 2 and 2.1 lines. So, again, small footprint, great power, Marine rated, but the technology and the amp design kind of fizzled off. And by that, I just mean so many things have changed. I mean, just in that time frame, the Evo X technology that we've patented and are working with now on all of the amplifiers that we deal with, we saw a big change. So when we discontinued that, obviously Evo X took off and is running strong, but we still had that constant request for bring back the marine line, bring back the marine line. And what we really did is we took our Evo X and we went, well, if we take this little part of it and this little part of it and put it into what we really want to do as a marine line, or now powersports, as we are part of that whole industry now, is what can we do different? How can we change it? How can we make it even more gnarly than the Evo X? And how can we help protect the dealers, the installers, the consumers from what these amplifiers are being used for? So basically, from the ground up, we redesigned a new powersports series for SounDigital, and it's absolutely wicked. It is a cool line.
Okay, so that was a little taste test. I just want to give people a little idea of what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to break this next session up into two parts. Let's first talk about the core line, which is the Evo X. Let's go through that real quick. Justin, why don't you start with basically, I see you have a lot of product in front of you. Well, how does it lay out for a dealer to understand?
Yeah, so there's a couple cool things about of SounDigital on the Evo X line. So Evo X is where we jumped on with SounDigital. We even, when we first talked to Jacob and the guys at HK, we're like, hey, how about Evo? And they're like, well, listen, why don't we start with Evo X? It's coming out, it's brand new, it'll be good for you guys, it'll be good for Canada. Cool, sounds great. So right now in the Evo X amplifier lineup, there's 13 different models of amp, but there's more than that in the configuration, and I'll explain to what I mean. And this is one thing that's really unique about SounDigital, and it goes down to our versatility. So, for example, it starts off all the way from a 2-channel 400 RMS amplifier, 400, 800, 1200, 2-channel, 1200, 4-channel, 3000 mono, 5000 mono, 8000 mono, 12,000, 20,000, 35,000 mono. But the cool things are, for example, are like when I talk about the 801. So the 801 RMS amp is, I think it's this boy right here. So, this is a 1204. I don't have an 800. Well, let me show you how big the 1200 is. So that's the 400 that's sitting on the table. This is the 1200. So 3 times the amp power. Right? Yeah. But, it's not a whole, it's maybe double the size of the amp, but it's the configuration that matters to me. So for example, when I was talking about the 801. Now, the 801 comes in 2 variations. So it comes in a 2 ohm variation and a 4 ohm variation. So what I mean by that is that the 801 in the 2 ohm variation is going to give you the most power at 12.6. It's going to give you your 800 RMS. But in the 4 ohm variant, it's going to be stable all the way down to 1 ohm, right? So it's going to give you everything, that's incorrect. It's going to give you the 800 RMS at 4 ohm, not that one. So it's not going to be stable down to 1 ohm. So that just means regardless of what kind of woofers you already had, sometimes it can be a pain as a shop when you have an amp that you want to use, or you have these amps where a customer brings in his own woofers, but he wants this kind of power, he has this kind of dollar range, and you just can't get the right configuration with the dual 2 ohm or dual 1 ohm, or voice coils when it comes to the woofers. So the fact that SounDigital was very proactive on that and offers these amps in so many different configurations depending on the impedance in the speakers is a really kind of a huge sellable benefit to dealers, because the cost is still the same, the output power eventually end goal is the same, but it will work with any kind of configuration you're doing. If it's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 woofers, whatever you need, there's going to be a solution that's going to get you to that kind of net end game RMS output.
Now, there's no doubt, I know we touched on it a little bit, and maybe Jacob can expand on this a little bit, but due to its size and the type of output that it puts out, it's found a real place in the motorcycle market, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, just the line in general. Starting from even the old Evolution series before Evo 2, before Evo 2.1, before Evo X. We were still talking about small amps. That's really kind of where we got our who are these guys? What are they doing? What's up with these amps? They're super weird. I don't get it. This isn't possible. And somehow we did it. And so, yeah, the power sports industry in the US is really how we gain traction. Because those, I need as much power as I can get and put it on top of a radio inside of a Harley fairing. Or, you see a lot of these really awesome tour pack builds where you flip open the tour pack and, there's a big mono and a couple of small 4 channels, and you kind of look at the bike and you're figuring out where everything is. And, then you realize it's a 10 speaker build with subs in the bags. And you can't really do that with a traditional, big footprint Class D to get the power that you would need, or, heaven forbid, a Class AB. Yeah, if you're shooting for, uber sound quality, that's great, but you can't put, a 18-inch long amplifier inside of a tour pack and the additional power needed to run everything else. So the power sports industry, the motorcycle industry, has really embraced this brand just due to the sheer fact that, like Justin said, I mean, that 400.4, you get a couple of tweeters or even just a simple 4-speaker 6.5 build, that little tiny amplifier is going to do everything we need.
Very, very cool. So you've got different power ratings. When it comes to the entire lineup, why don't you highlight a couple of the best sellers? Like, if you would encourage a dealer to kind of get in or try, what would be your go-to, Justin?
Yeah, so I mean, for us, obviously the 400s are awesome. We go through them like crazy. And the nice thing about the little 404 is it's exactly what it is. It's 4x100 at 2 ohms. It's literally like 4 inches by 4 inches. Operating voltage on this amp is anywhere between 8 and 16 volts. I mean, musical current draw on this is 19 amps, right? So when you're thinking about a bike with a small stator, like, this makes sense. Maximum current draw on this is still just under 40 amps. Now, the thing with SounDigital that makes it so awesome, if you notice, is the amps, I would almost say, are a little bit higher than some other amps, a little bit taller. And that's just because the amps are so efficient, but they're so efficient because of the way that they're manufactured. The amount of copper that's used on their PCBs, the way that the PCB exchanges heat with the heat sink inside the amp internally, and then the way that the amp exchanges the heat with the exterior design of the design, because of the design, is what helped give you this kind of super small package and these high efficiency in the amps. So the 400 is really, really, really good for us. We've been doing crazy well with that. 800, the 800 Series 4, the 800 Series 1 for bikes. I haven't really had a bike that's done like a 3000 mono or a 2404 yet, but I've had the 3000 and the 5000 kind of get into some serious situation with a couple ground zero hydrogen woofers, and it's maddening. Like, it is insane.
Maddening.
Yeah, it's raw power. It's super fun. Everything about the line, super dependable. So honestly, our biggest sellers are the 400 and the 800 series right now. And then surprisingly enough, the like 3000 to 8000 series monos people have just been kind of coming and getting. And like I said, Ben, I'm an honest dude, and I am first to admit, like, the world of SPL was foreign to me. I've been an SQ guy my entire life, and then all of a sudden, for us as a company, when we picked up SounDigital and the following that SounDigital have, we get these guys coming out of the woodwork, dealers of ours that are like, hey, I need a 3000 RMS amp. And I was like, okay. I need a 5000 RMS amp. I'm like, okay, I have that. I need an 8000 RMS amp that draws, 230 amp max that's small enough to fit under a seat. I have that, So it really has just been a solid lineup. The core products of Evo X, are definitely there. I haven't sold a 20,000 RMS or 35,000 surfboard yet, but I mean,
you never know.
The day that I get it, I get that PO.
So I heard some things that I really want to touch on, and that is, I have that. That is a very great thing for a distributor to say, because that's what your job is to be able to, supply your dealers with solutions to, what their customers want. So that's great that, there seems to be an application within the Evo X lineup for pretty much every situation, like the entire gambit, right? Here's my 2 cents on what I've taken from this. We talk a lot about the following in power sports, biking specific, and growing from there. But man, you're talking about such low draws. These could be great options for stealth installs in like electric hybrid vehicles, Teslas, that type of stuff, where draw is definitely an issue. And just looking at the size of those amps, I mean, under seat installs, there's so, the biggest thing right now is I don't have the space, or I don't want the wife necessarily to see all these big amps. This could be a cool solution to that. That's my 2 cents. Jacob, I don't know what you think about that.
No, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. And one of the things that we've seen with the development and the release of the Evo X is we've even seen a lot of the SQ and more daily driver style builds embracing this, because you can take an 800.4 or a 1200.4 and put it in the stock location of a factory amplifier in some of these vehicles. So now you just modify the bracket or build an adapter to adapt, that factory bolt-in bracket over to an 800.4, or if you've got the room, you stack an 800.4 and an 800.1 on top of each other. Because again, you're incredibly small and maybe about 4 inches thick, but now you've got a wicked 5-channel configuration that still fits behind a stock panel. So it's, for us, it's not even just the SPL side. It's not just the bike market. We've seen a massive influx in these, daily driver style shops and some of the higher end SQ guys going, wait. What is this? What can I do with it? And we've really hit the ground running with some of that stuff. So that's the biggest thing for us has been
you got me thinking. I'm just going to interject here real quick. You know those new head unit modules, which are like half shallow? Mm-hmm. I'm wondering if one of those don't fit right there, like behind the stock head unit location. Can you imagine?
People buried the 400s in the dash all the time.
Really? Oh, say, okay. I didn't even know that. I was just thinking about it based on that size. There's another solution if I just want to give a quick shout out to Diego, who's actually online watching us. What's up, Diego? Thank you for tuning in. Just quick, I just wanted to throw this guy Tristan's always watching. He's all the way from the Barbados, and he wanted to say we did an SQ vehicle here in the Barbados using SounDigital amps and ground zero mids. Imagine that. Just Jacob, you probably approve of that combo.
I do, absolutely.
Right.
That's my daily driver right there.
There you go. Oh wait, check that out. And it won SQ in 2019 IASCA. Imagine that. There you go. Anything else we want to talk about Evo X? Because I do want to kind of also spend some time on this new blue amp.
Yeah. I mean, Evo X, the biggest takeaways on that one, Ben, are the available options for the dealer, the dependability, the footprint, and the versatility of everything else in the lineup. So, whether you're shooting for OEM factory amplifier replacement, all the way up to massive SQ or SPL builds, you can use an Evo X for every single thing, and you can get 5 of them where you'd put one normal amp. So it's great.
But that's the truth. And I want to say, this is not a dig on any other amplifier manufacturer. There's a lot of great amps out there that do have small footprints, but I personally am quite impressed with the specs on the SounDigital ones and the output that you guys, and also the transparency of the output. I mean, you really lay it out. So if anybody's into numbers, don't worry, SounDigital's got you covered. They can show you everything. That's for sure. Let's move a bit forward to this new lineup we touched on in the beginning of the show. It's the powersports lineup. So my number one question before I even show a single image, because I do have some images. I know we don't have it in hand. We do have some images. Is this, Jacob, just an Evo X amplifier with the blue sticker on it?
No. And don't get me wrong, there is Evo X technology in it. That's how we get, an 800.4 Evo X and an 800.4 Evo PS in a similar footprint. But no, it is not just a conformal coated Evo X that we threw a marine rating on. We really have put a lot of effort into trying to make this a traditional or true to power sports amplifier. So it is IP64 rated, if I remember correctly. We do, it's a fanless convection cooled amplifier. So, we've redesigned the heatsink. We've redesigned how the board attaches to the heatsink to help with thermal transfer, since we've eliminated the cooling fan and any kind of exterior vents. We've changed RCA styles into something that's better sealed against the end caps. We've designed and tooled silicone plugs so you guys can get in, adjust your gains, adjust your crossovers, plug the holes. We've done additional work on the boards to try and help with, if any corrosion does happen to occur, we've protected the traces with gold plating instead of just traditional copper. So, I mean, we've really stepped it up with this series of amplifiers to make something that is specifically designed for that power sports world. And we've been getting great traction with it. I mean, I know a bunch of car guys who've adapted over. All of their boat builds are now Evo PS. The few bikes that maybe they do are, Evo PS. and they're getting great results with it. So it's super cool to see that transition happen.
That's interesting. I'm going to let Justin speak to this in a second. But one thing I did know is you said you took out the fan from the Evo X line. So there is now a fanless design, which is interesting because now you've removed pretty much the only moving part that was in that amplifier, which is cool. And if I'm not mistaken, the Evo X line, you were mentioning there are vents for cooling on the side of the Evo X, but now the Evo PS, which I'm going to throw up an image right now. As you can see, there is no vent. So those are just fins on the top and the bottom. And you were mentioning, Jacob, about the silicone plugs. Is that what you're referring to right there?
Yes, sir. Yep. So anything that's not being used or after tuning can get plugged up and help protect the amplifier from splash, from humidity, from things like that, so that we can really kind of protect the life of the amplifier in its real world environment.
You were also talking about the design, how you've had to shift a couple of things around, other than the conformal coatings, but like, as far as the footprint, if we're going spec for spec, are these smaller, bigger, same as the X lineup?
As far as the footprint is concerned, they are almost identical. I mean, obviously, you see the amplifiers here without a plastic end cap. So they've changed a little bit. They are a little bit thicker just due to the new heatsink design, being that it's a multi-piece heatsink that we had to design to keep the to maintain that IP rating, or to gain that IP rating. We really had to redesign the heatsink, so it's a little bit taller, but other than that, it's in theory, direct exchange. If you take an 800 where you can fit an 800.4, you can fit an 800.4, if that makes sense.
So obviously more rugged, built for the the elements, as you mentioned. You've minimized everything you can to make it tougher, if that's a word. But what about the musicality, the sound? Has that changed now because you've had to change the design internally?
So we did have to do some differences. I mean, obviously, when you eliminate cooling, you have to change internal componentry. So, in theory, this is a throttled back, hot rodded amplifier. So what I mean by that is, we had to beef up the internals to be able to handle the fact that it's, a convection cooled, non-fan cooled amplifier, but we throttled it back to increase reliability. So we're still making, 200 by 4 at 2 ohm on the 800.4 model. So it still provides gobs of power, but we really had to redesign and rethink how we got there. So as far as sound signature goes, it's still an extremely phenomenal sounding amplifier. Some might say it's better. Some might say it's as good as the Evo X counterpart, just because, again, we've had to redesign some of the internals to help with that.
So is this a better, so I'm a dealer and I'm doing bike business or ATV. Is this a better option to put into a bike than the X line?
Absolutely. Yes, it is. Being that it's specifically designed for that power sports world, it's specifically designed for, I'm not going to lie, a perfectly tuned Harley is still going to rattle apart at idle. You're still cruising down the road. It's not silky smooth like you would get in a Lexus or a, Mercedes. So we've had to increase the stability of the amplifier, rebuild the internals so that they are more rugged than even the Evo X models, which we pride ourselves on being, increased vibration resistance and things like that. So not only that, but we've also treated it for moisture. We've treated it for some of these other things that even in a fairing, if that top gasket across the windshield happens to start going bad, you're going to get water into the fairing. The triple tree isn't, it's not sealed up from the bottom, so you might get splash, you might get other things. So really, when it comes to anything open air environment, whether it's a Harley, a boat, a Jeep without a top, the Evo PS to me is going to be the preferred recommendation. Absolutely.
Justin, throwing over to you, your thoughts or reviews or anything you'd like to talk about this new PS line.
So one thing that Jacob kind of touched on that I think a lot of people don't think about is when he did mention the suspension on motorcycles and UTVs or power sports. I mean, those aren't the smoothest riding things. And when you do look at Evo X, already has a built-in vibration dampener for the board, a raised kind of circuit board within the amp to absorb vibration, prevent components from becoming loose and stressing on joints, etc., and solders. I think that when you think that they've already looked at that in the non-power sports line, because as a result of, when you put a 12,000 RMS amplifier in there, you're getting a lot of feel in the car. Let's just say that, right? The fact that they've already looked at something like that and then been able to improve on it in the power sports line, a technology they've already put in place on a regular amplifier for them, I think that's just kind of, like I said, it shows the step forward that SounDigital is making. These amps have I would say, in my personal opinion, like a little bit more industrial look, but it's all serves a purpose. The large heat sinks on both sides. When you seal that amp and you no longer have that fan and you have no air cooling vents, the heat still happens. These are still extremely efficient amplifiers. 79% efficient on the 804 versus, I believe, the 804 Evo X is 82%. So when you look at that, the efficiency change with the amount of effort that they've put into this, like you said, it really does make kind of a no-brainer for anyone on the power sports or Harley side of things. And let's be honest, man, those side-by-sides get flipped. They go through mud, hell, I have dealers using these to build stereos on snowmobiles, with original Evo X. So now that, power sports is available, it's an absolute no-brainer, especially it's a different thing if you're doing something on a snowmobile that, the amp gets hot and it may not necessarily get moisture or snow put onto it, but it, aluminum chassis on some amps, that amp's going to get warm and it's going to begin, the hot air is going to hit the cold surface and you're going to get condensation inside that amp, right? So it's a different kind of aspect of an exterior rated product. But now, with Power Evo PS, it's covered. You can put it anywhere. You can use it in the car. If you
could put that ish anywhere.
Yeah.
I really dig I think for marine it'd be great too, like small footprints.
You can put 15 of them in a boat.
You can put, if you wanted, absolutely different zones and power some crazy subs and
totally.
Yeah, it would be really, really kick ass. Anything else we missed as far as covering what the PS line has to offer, Jacob?
Other than just stability, the big thing for us is it's going to be and is in development still to be a complete line. Currently we've got the 800.1, the 800.4, the 1200.4, and a 2000.4. So when you talk about, things like, okay, well, we're going to do a boat with some crazy subs, we've still got an amplifier that can produce a pretty wicked amount of power in, again, a relatively small footprint. It's not that, probably about the same size as a 2400.4 in the car world. So what we really look at is that mentality of, well, okay, now what we're striving to be able to do and what we're striving on with this product line is to be able to give those power sports options or power sports dealers the complete solution, like Justin was talking about earlier. Hey, I've got that. I've got that. I've got that. So when we're looking at the entire product lineup of what we're trying to develop over the next months / or few small single-digit years, is that ability to say, oh, you want to do a complete build with this, and you want an 8K or something. We're going to try and build that in that power sports mentality. If there's enough want and enough need, and that's another cool thing about the power sports is this whole line spawned from people saying, "Can you bring it back?" So imagine what we can do, with that.
I know Diego kind of sort of a little bit hinted on a couple things coming down the pipe, but we'll save that for when it's time to really talk about it, guys. I think you've done a tremendous job, first of all, Jacob, and the whole entire team at SounDigital with this new power sports lineup, literally evolving from the Evo X lineup, or like you said, bringing back aspects that were in the past and kind of making them better. But at the end of the day, what we want to know at CMA is real world, right? We're talking specs, we're talking shapes, we're talking sizes. So we thought, and I'm going to spring this on you, that we'd reach out to one of your dealers and hear what they have to say about playing with. What do you think of that? This is new for Connected. We're going to bring in dealers, and we want to hear what they have to say. No nonsense, not off the packaging, no marketing materials. I want to know what's going on with these products in the shop. So,
like one of my dealers?
You're wondering who I have.
I'm wondering who you have.
Well, don't worry, because he's here, and I'm going to bring him on for the last bit of the show, and I want to talk to him with you here about, SounDigital. So why don't I bring him on right now? You might know this guy. What's going on, Austin?
What's up, y'all?
What's up, dude?
So I took the liberty to reach out to Austin from Vibe Car Audio, who I happen to know has obviously had the experience of playing with some of your product and putting them into customers' cars. So I thought, what a great idea to bring a dealer in and let's hear what they have to say, real world experience. So, Austin, first of all, before we talk about SounDigital, why don't you tell the folks listening, all the other dealers, who you are, where you are, what you represent, and what Vibe Car Audio is all about?
I am Austin Womble, Vibe Car Audio. I'm the sales manager. This is our 17th year in business. We specialize in car, boat, and bike audio, DSP tune systems. We specialize in radar laser jammers. We do all kinds of stuff. That's kind of what we specialize in. And
where are you located?
We are in Red Deer, Alberta.
AB.
Central Alberta. We're a little south of BB. Yeah, we're close.
That's all right. And you know what? Vibe has been awesome with providing great coverage of some of the builds they do. We at CMA obviously have featured you guys' builds so many times already on a regular. So we thought it'd be a great idea to kind of hear from Austin. So Austin, how long have you been a SounDigital dealer?
Well, I think a year and a half, 2 years. Whenever BB got them, we signed up right away. Like I knew I'd seen them and heard about them. There's a couple big guys like in the States that use them that I've seen, like Chris Pate uses them in his builds, and Carlos at MVS uses them on like every Harley he does. So I knew about them. And as soon as Justin was like, we got these amps coming in, and I'm like, yeah, let's try them out. They look sweet.
Okay. So you already knew about the brand before BB even announced that they were distributing. Okay. Having said that, when you got the product, did it meet your expectations before you even plugged it in?
Well, they're crazy small. So the first thing obviously is like, damn, these are nuts. These are crazy. It's like, yeah, we can fit like as many of these as we want on a bike. So it's exciting. And then as soon as you like fire one up, you get it playing, they perform, man. Like, a lot of people are hesitant because they're so small and they're like, science doesn't work that way, but science does work that way. They're crazy.
So do you remember the first time you plugged one in with your crew and you're like, okay, let's try this, guy. Is this like really going to perform?
Yeah, what was that like? It was at a Harley, and we had been doing, they're not marine, right? But, we're like, you know what? They're from Brazil. It's super hot in Brazil. It's humid in Brazil. Guys in the States put them on bikes. So like, let's just send it. And we do every bike we've been doing since these came out has got one, and we've never had one come back. Not one. Ever.
Really?
So yeah.
You guys do a lot of bikes. Aren't you like 4 or 5 months out right now?
No, we're not. No, I wish.
Okay.
That'd be crazy. We're not that
all right,
busy.
that's okay.
But we do a lot
I've seen because I've seen so many bikes come out.
We do a lot. Like we probably at any given time have like 2 to 3 here in the summer, right, on a normal day that we're out trying to fit in and do. Scott is like a madman with bikes, and he didn't want to do this. I wanted him to do it because he installs them, he puts them in, he tunes them, but I'm here.
All right, fair enough. So before I unleash Justin and Jacob, who might have a question or two for you, what has the customer feedback been? That's what I want to know. Like, it's great. You tell the customer this is what you need. I'm putting it in. It fits well. We get that small footprint. What are you hearing from the customers? Well,
really, at the end of the day, it needs to perform. It needs to put out power. It needs to not fail, and all of those things happen, every time we use them. So, like, guys with Harleys know the amp's got to be small going into it. They know there's not a lot of room. So obviously we show them first. We say, this is how actually small it is. It's smaller than, your standard powersports amp. So a lot, some guys are like, man, that's crazy. I trust you, but that's crazy. And they're always like, damn, yeah, I love it. That puts out what you said it would. It's loud, it's clean, they don't distort. They're pretty, they're very legit amps, and we're excited to try these new powersports ones.
All right.
Obviously, they can only be better, and especially if they're made for that like application. Like I said, we've never had one fail in a boat, or not in a boat, in a bike, not one, and that's what we put in bikes.
Okay. All right. I got my question. So now that you have Justin, Jacob, please ask Austin a question that you'd like to hear.
Justin.
I mean, I'm on the spot right now. I don't really. I mean, Well, hey Austin, how you doing?
Man, I'm good. How are you? How's your weather?
Yeah, actually, I want to talk to you. Actually, I'm covered in snow. We got like 2 feet of snow last night. I swear.
What?
Oh yeah, dude, it's brutal.
Whoa. Okay.
So I mean, as a dealer that's done so well with the regular Evo, the regular Evo X, because you and I have kind of talked about this, right? When you talk about the reliability in the Evo X, and how you've had it on a bike and you haven't had a single issue, there probably is some hesitancy on dealers to kind of like, well, why do I really need to push to the power sports when Evo X is so good already? But I think kind of from you as a standpoint, it's you already have confidence in the Evo X products. This kind of just gives you the utmost confidence, I would say. And I would say maybe at a store level, and this is where my question really comes into you, is, when you hear about putting a 3000 RMS mono on a side-by-side or a 2400 RMS 4-channel, to a lot of people that sounds far-fetched. But I would personally say that only sounds far-fetched because it's been so hard to do in the past, right? So I would say, like, have you noticed that, SounDigital has kind of opened up your world to getting to like a different level of volume, a different level of gear into these bikes or these side-by-sides that have just been, I want to say kind of like standardized with like a stage 1 or a stage 2 for the past 5 or 6 years, right? You now have the ability to blow these out of the water. You're still within your power restraints, as far as consumption goes, and flexibility inside. So I would say, like, what's your opinion on that?
Well, your standard like power sports amp is like 50 watts a channel, usually like at 4 ohm.
Yes.
The bigger ones are 75 a channel at 4 ohm.
Yeah.
So you can only get so much by doing that. So like our go-to lately, like we've done a lot of the 404s, but now like our go-to is the 804. The speakers can handle more power, and it's always good to have more overhead and have more power, especially with the the speakers we're putting in bikes. So it's sweet to be able to have that much more power and not be stuck with 50 watts a channel or 75 watts a channel. We can do 200 watts a channel to a speaker, and it's on a bike. It's crazy with a small footprint. And so we're very confident with their amps. That's where we wouldn't put them in these bikes. And we're excited to have these power sports ones, not just for bikes. It's going to be sweet for bikes because, of course, guys with their bike, they come with mentality. They want it marine. It needs to be marine. And I get that. So a lot of they're trusting us saying, hey, this amp isn't marine, but it'll be fine. And they are fine. But just being able to say, hey, this is actually marine. It's 800 watts. It's 800 watt amplifier. You for sure will not have issues. Not that we've had them, but it's just, it'll give a lot more people more confidence. Right. And then we do a lot of boats, and boat amps are kind of the same. There's a few companies out there that make a lot more power on, more power on their channels. Some don't, some do, but we're excited to put these in boats because we can double up so much more power on towers that we couldn't before, and have a smaller footprint. I know we're excited to do that because that'll be, towers can take silly power, 9-inch, 10-inch towers. You just want those things to send when you're 50 feet behind the boat.
And that's why the customer buys it. They want it to send 30, 40, 50, 60 feet out with, the horn drivers and all that. Jacob, do you have any comments for Austin?
No, Justin actually kind of asked my question was, with the introduction of, Evo X to you guys, have you seen a change, not just maybe necessarily on bikes, but if you guys have been doing it in cars, anything along those lines, have you seen kind of a change of what you guys can do because of the power, and that for me was going to be the biggest question. And you nailed it when you were answering for Justin was that ability to, now we're doubling up power. Now I'm using a better driver, or maybe something better suited for that customer. So, is there anything with regard to that, whether it's not just maybe bike specific, but, car or, or boat, like you said, that you've been able to say, well, this one amplifier has changed this thing that we
yes and no, we haven't got to do it yet, but we've been really trying to, like we do a lot of, we like to, look at kind of what other shops are doing and seeing what works. So as an example, Chris Payton, Texas, they do a lot of ground zero subs. They'll do like 4.8s, 4.10s under the seats at pickups. And that takes up all your space under your seat. So, and you need, ground zero subs need a lot of power. You're taking up all your space under the seat. There's only so much space behind the seat. So when you need that much power, like, what do you do? And so we've seen what he's been doing, and 3,000 watt mono from SounDigital, it's like half the size of 1,000 watt mono from a different brand that fits behind the seat, tiny footprint, and it's going to drive those subs like there's no tomorrow. So we haven't got to do it yet, but that's one thing that I haven't forgotten about, that we really are that's something that we're trying to get to, because that's a real world situation where you can't normally do that unless you're trying to stuff some crazy 3,000-4,000 watt amp somewhere that you need, but in pickup truck space is limited. So that's a non-bike, I would say non-marine application that these amps are absolutely perfect for, is to be able to do that with silly bass, force 3-4 drivers, and have an amp like that big.
Wow, crazy. I'm gonna Austin, before we let you go, I guess obviously you approve of this line of amplifiers. I can tell in your enthusiasm when you talk about it. But what message would you have for other dealers tuning in that maybe we're looking at trying these amps? What message do you have for them?
I would try them. I mean, well, no question, they've helped our business dramatically in a lot of ways. BB is also amazing to deal with. We like to support them in any way we can, because they're awesome. They help you out, as a distributor. I get it. You can't be skeptical, but you just got to try it. Like, once you try it and you're like, damn, you'll know once you try it that these are legit. They're worth having. They're, all the time. They're worth selling. You can have confidence and faith in selling it to your client, knowing you're not going to have issues, and they're going to put out, and you can hide them anywhere you want.
Thank you so much for your time today, Austin, and we do appreciate your feedback. I'm sure BB and both and Jacob and SounDigital appreciate it as well. Thanks a lot, Austin.
Thank you.
Thanks, buddy.
Take care. Yeah, you like that? Little testimonial action from the dealer?
Yeah. Surprise.
Surprise. No, but I'll tell you what, I think it's important. I want to hear what it's like from the shop. You know what I mean? And obviously the feedback's been good.
And I think that's what's really cool. And I honestly, it's a topic that we've just maybe broached a little bit on here, is that, back in the day when you're thinking, I need a 3,000 RMS amp, I'm putting these 4 woofers and this and this and this. Okay, well, labor is huge because I got to do this. And the cost of the amp is enormous because it needs to be this. And you need zero gauge wire because you need this and this and this. So there's almost been maybe a hesitance because, you're talking to the customer. Cool, well, yeah, that's going to be 12,000, Mr. Customer, right? But with SounDigital and kind of the cost, or back into the old school $1 per watt that you have in there, it just, with the size and the versatility of the amps and the current draw available, you're getting to a 2,000, 3,000 RMS amp. You're not, it's not, I need 2 more batteries. I need 2 isolators. I need this much space. I need 27 cubic feet to mount this amp because it's the size of the entire truck wall, So I think that's going to help the industry push forward too, to open up a whole bunch more possibilities and kind of start a trend that, it's now more feasible. More people would buy a sports car if a sports car was cheaper. You know what I mean? So it's like, you're going to get people that are going to start to fulfill their passion, I hope, a little bit more with SounDigital, because they're not going to be so scared of the budget, which is going to be really cool.
There seems to be a lot of comments coming in, very positive, of personal experiences with the brand, and I thought I'd share those on the screen so people can see. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know what else we need to say other than get you some, plug it in, and try it out. Jacob, any last message before I let you go?
No, I mean, I think we covered a lot of good information. There's nothing really that I can think of that jumps out at me other than the fact that JB number 2 over there was saying.
Number 2.
Oh, now JB's number. Okay. Okay.
What it's really going to do is, this product line has opened the eyes for a lot of retailers to say, these are things that I can do now. This product line that I've got. The other big thing too is exactly like he was talking about when it comes to budget, when it comes to some of these other things. Now a dealer doesn't need to be scared to go, we need to do a 3K and batteries and alternator, because now it's not, $10,000 for a big old amplifier plus all the accessories. So really what it's given us is as retailers or as car audio guys is the ability to do what we want, how it needs to be done, and no longer have necessarily that sticker shock. That's one of the biggest things for us is just being able to open the eyes of a lot of retailers and say, hey man, you know, as Austin pointed out, you know, okay, you're doing 410s under the backseat or 4.8s under the backseat of a car. You need power. We can give you that. And we can give you that in a way that's not scary. And so it's really cool. And that's one of the things that I like to talk about. And just my point that I like to reiterate is, you know, now you can do the things that you want to do, and we can make it happen.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your time once again, Jacob. Always a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks,
Later.
sir.
Take care. There you have it, Mr. Justin.
Yeah. Cool episode.
Cool episode. Cool brand. Cool product.
Softest t-shirts ever.
Softest t-shirts ever. Get in on the swag. Inventory?
So Powersports is arriving right now. Evo X is in stock and arriving. So,
On a regular?
you know, like I said, being a partner with HKI, they're so great. And, you know, if it's out of stock, it's only out of stock for a little while. We're not facing a lot of the manufacturing issues we are with Eastern made product right now, which is really nice because it's just far Southern made product, you know. So that's
far Southern, like other side of the earth Southern. Like they're just as far, but vertically, not horizontally, if that makes sense.
Different America, yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to throw up the digits one more time. If you don't know, Justin and SounDigital distributed exclusively in Canada by BB Distribution. Check out their website, bbdistribution.ca, or call them at the 1-800 number and ask for Justin.
Yeah, call me if you guys have any questions. I'd love to talk, clearly.
He definitely does. Hey, I think that's a wrap. Thank you so much.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
We'll talk to you soon.
Hopefully we take a little break from each other for a while.
No, I think we're on tonight, aren't we?
Nice.
Are we? Are you on tonight?
I don't know.
No, maybe not. I don't know. But you're on soon. You're always on soon. That's the thing. You're always on soon.
I'm ready when you are.
Yes, sir. Take care, Justin.
Thank you, Ben.
All right. There you have it, everybody. A nice lunchtime learning session on a very unique brand, SounDigital amplifiers out of Brazil, now with their new powersports lineup and distributed in Canada through BB Distribution. Hey, make sure to tune in tonight. Tonight, we got a Jeep and off-road truck special for CMA Live. Some big brands on. Another huge category that's getting a lot of buzz, and they're going to be on there tonight showing you guys all the cool products that are out right now. So check that out tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, CMA Live, the Jeep and Trucks episode. I'll be back, of course, this Friday for another CMA Connected, presented by Sirius XM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until